Hey everyone, George Christie here with Wine Industry Network. Welcome to another episode of the Win Educational Webinar Series. Today's webinar is titled, Is Your Website Delivering Cash or Trash? And really, it's very timely. It's really all about looking at your website, making sure that it's driving the kind of revenue that you're looking for, driving the kind of engagement that you're looking for, because we all know that we're not seeing as many people in tasting room as we have in the past. Hopefully that's a trend that does reverse. But in the meantime, we need to be taking advantage of whatever channels that we do have available. Now, for a lot of people, I think the idea of migrating their website to something else can be a little bit daunting, a little bit overwhelming. You start thinking about, what does that look like and how expensive is it going to be? And this session is going to really help you understand some of the options that are out there that not only get you something that you want and make that transition to a new website easy, but maybe more importantly, the ability to update the content on there much easier than having to go through a web designer. So today's session is going to be presented by Susan DeMatei. Susan is the president and founder of WineGlass Marketing. She's going to be joined by Michael McBride with WP Engine. And again, they're going to go through some of these templates and help you understand what your options are and how easy it is to make this switch. All right, I think that about covers it. Thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoy the session, and we'll hand it off to Susan and let her take it from here. Take it away, Susan.
Thanks, George. Hi, everyone. This is a fun webinar. It's all about website templates and how you can make the most of what's out there. I called it cash or trash, but I also could have called it 29 websites in 55 minutes because we're going to be looking at a lot of websites today. For those of you who don't know me, I am Susan DeMatei. I have a full-service marketing agency specifically for wineries. It's called WineGlass Marketing, and we love talking about websites. One of our great partners is here, Mike McBride from WP Engine. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, really appreciate you having me.
So before we dive in, I do have some terms and conditions to review with you. This is a little bit of a different kind of webinar than you're used to seeing from me. So I want to call out that the websites that I'm going to be talking about today are not our clients. I don't know most of them. I chose the websites based on design only to illustrate the points that I wanted to make. If I didn't like your site, I'm sure you are lovely people and have lots of really good reasons for why you designed the site the way you did. If I piss anybody off, hate mail can be sent to me, care of my office, and I will be sure the letters find their way into my recycle bin. No, seriously, I really don't mean to insult anyone with anything I say here. As always, my webinar advice should be taken with a sense of humor, and it also helps if you're intoxicated at the time of viewing. So let's dive into what we're going to cover today. First thing we'll do is cover some of the basics. Then we're going to move on to elements of a template, and then the important step of choosing a template. At that point, the adult is going to take over, and Mike is going to talk to us about some tips about hosting and plugins. And then I have a final surprise announcement for you guys. So I sat down to write this section, and I wanted to do something different. So I did what anybody would do. I opened up a bottle of wine and I started playing with whiteboard video software. So for those of you who are a bit more advanced, bear with me here on this section. It's only 6 minutes and we move beyond the basics pretty quickly. But I did want to put this section in for the people who aren't clear on the difference between, say, a CMS or a DNS, because the rest of this discussion today is really based on some of these concepts. So you lucky people are the first to premiere my movie, which I artfully call How the Web Works. Let's take a look. Let's say you're on your computer. You access the internet through a browser, like Google Chrome. Oh, and when you do, you have a location on the internet, like your address in outer space. That's called an IP address. Now, to access the internet, you have to have a modem to a web service, probably something like Comcast Xfinity. And when you pay your Comcast bill on time, you can access the internet. But if you want to go somewhere, you have to type in a location. You do this when you type in a URL. Now you can pay for ownership of URLs, and that's what it means to own your own domain. URLs are registered on servers called DNS servers or domain name servers. A good example of this is GoDaddy. These servers have records of who owns different addresses or domains on the internet. Think of it like a cosmic Yellow Pages. You find addresses in these Yellow Pages with a search engine, like Google. And when Google directs you to a website, these websites are sitting on another server somewhere, and these servers are called hosting services. An example of this is WP Engine. The confusing part is sometimes domain services can sometimes offer hosting, but not all hosting services give you the ability to buy a domain. And to further make things confusing, some domain services also manage your emails along with your URL. Now let's look at your website living on one of these hosted servers. Many websites nowadays are based on a template. These can also be called a theme or a stencil. These provide you with the rough bones of a website. To use an analogy, if your website was a car, your template would be the chassis. Now, the chassis is just the base. It's what you put on top of it that defines the car. For instance, a Toyota 4Runner, an SUV, uses the same chassis as the Toyota Tacoma, a pickup truck. Now that shell or car that you put on the chassis is your website content. Your content will contain features like if you have a wine club membership area, or an event schedule, or maybe a wedding venue picture gallery. These features are part of the function of your website. But then the design of your website is added with a third level called a style sheet. This is the trim of your car. What color is it? Does it have the sports or the luxury package? Is the interior cloth or leather? These are the tweaks the designer can make to make your site look like your brand and nobody else's. So how do you build a website anyway? Well, most websites are built on a platform, and the most common ones are WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and Shopify. These platforms can also be called a content management system or CMS. Now with a CMS, you don't need to know how to code. And you can use tools like you can just type in things and drag and drop pictures. The key benefits to these platforms is that they have features that you can plug into your website and you don't have to go to the cost and time of building them. WordPress is by far the most used platform and content management system on the internet, with some estimates as many as 810 million, or about 40% of the internet, is on WordPress. Because it's so pervasive, it has the most tools pre-built into it. Currently, WordPress has over 30,000 themes and 50,000 plugins built and tested by outside developers that you can connect to your website in just minutes. Most of these are affordable, but it can get confusing. So let's recap what we've learned. Your DNS service provider holds the keys to your URL, but your hosting service provider is the one who actually houses your website on the internet. These can be the same or different companies. Very, very few websites are custom built. Almost all websites start with a template or a theme. But don't think when you choose a theme that it means a cookie cutter and your website will look like everybody else's. A template is just the basis of a site, and it's highly customizable. You will customize it with your plugins and your features. This is where you control the content. And then a style sheet is the final touch that makes the colors and fonts look different and on your brand. You can manage all of this, the theme, the plugins, the content, and the style, through an interface called a CMS. And the biggest CMS with the most tools, themes, and flexibility out there is WordPress. Not bad for my first whiteboard video, huh? Okay, I'm not going to win any awards on that one. Let's go ahead and talk about why templates might be a good option for you. First, a template is pre-coded. It's not just designed. This not only saves you time, but it also will save you some money because you don't have to hire a designer and a developer. A template has usually also been used again and again and again, so the issues have been worked out. With a custom site, only your winery has access to it, so you and you alone are the guinea pig. While I do recommend that you get a designer to initially customize your template, you should be able to maintain it on your own. Templates always come with the CMS, and if you're using something like WordPress, once you learn all the basics, those skills will be transferable with you for the rest of your career. As we said in the first point, it does save you money, but I would like to encourage you to still make that investment in your digital presence. As an industry, the wine industry spends about 2% of our gross sales on marketing. The Small Business Association actually recommends small businesses spend around 6 to 8% of their gross sales on marketing. Our packaged goods competitors like RTDs and beer, they can spend up to 20%. So your online presence is really going to be increasingly more important as our consumers shift to people who are under 40 and grew up with the internet. So if you aren't advertising on social or other digital channels right now, you probably should be. And as that brilliant award-winning video said, the template is just the base. Interestingly, the most popular WordPress theme is called Divi, and it has been downloaded more than 800,000 times. I bet each of those sites look very, very different from each other. The point is make a template your own with customization. And speaking of customization, one of the cool things about templates is how easy you can change them. So don't forget that the web is dynamic, and don't really design your template and then walk away for a minute. Design it, then watch customer activity, track your sales conversions, follow your visitor paths, and then try maybe different landing pages, different sliders, or different content. Templates are made to be modular and editable, so take full advantage of that. In this next section, we're going to break apart the elements of a template so that in section 3, we can talk about how to use these elements. Now I'm going to talk about headers first, then navigation, and then images. And then we'll get to content in the third section. So starting with headers, the simplest type of header is a static header. This type of header is at the top of the page. And as you scroll, it will stay at the top of the page. This is how traditionally sites were built, and pretty much a 2-year-old knows that if you go to the top of a page, you'll find the navigation in the header. The reason you would choose something like this is tradition, but also you might choose a template with this if you have a lot of content that you don't want to be confused or covered up with the navigation on every screen. If you do want a persistent nav, you're looking for a template with a sticky header. This design follows you wherever you are on a page. Now, I'm a big fan of persistent navs, but it can conflict with your copy and be confusing over your images. By the way, I want to do a little sidebar here. I don't really cover scrolling in this presentation, but don't be afraid of it. There's actually a design style called infinite scrolling, where you actually never get to the bottom. And it's been interesting to read about. It's been suggested as being harmful to us because it's addictive, because scrolling actually creates a dopamine-inducing effect in the brain. It's true, Google it. But research tells us that the average person expects a page to load in less than 2 seconds and that we scroll almost immediately. So don't worry about below the fold. It doesn't really exist anymore. Another popular header is the full width header. You will see this typically as a solid bar and more recently as a reversed out text from the main image. It's impactful and luxurious looking. If you want to make a statement, look for a template with a full width header. So now we're going to talk about navigation. Navigation is so dang important to your site. It's the very first thing we work with when a client comes to us, and it should be something that you put thought into. It's like the outline of a book or an article. It dictates how the site is put together. This is, coincidentally, another full width header, but we're looking at the nav here, and this is an example of a horizontal navigation. This is the most common way to show a navigation. These can have the logo in the middle, or the right or the left, and the navigation can be centered or left or right justified. Another side note here is the little banner on the very top of this page. These are starting to show up and gain popularity for alerts like sales or hours of operation or new releases. They act kind of like pop-ups that can be changed out at will for marketing messages. The counterpart to horizontal navigation is obviously a vertical navigation. Templates with these are typically what we call an accordion style. These can be expanded down and then expanded back up. I would choose a template with a vertical nav if I had content that was several layers deep. And since it is less common, it also will make your website stand out. We actually did do this site for Niagara College Winery. And in addition to the cool rollover action on the images, what I'm showing here is a drop-down navigation. So if you don't have an accordion nav, chances are you have a drop-down nav, because this will show you the subpages in each top-level category. A template with a drop-down nav is a good choice if you have multiple pages of second-level content under each top level. But it does end up looking strange if you only have sub-level pages in one area. So you probably don't want to choose a template with a nav like this if you don't have a lot of pages. Or you can also ask your designer to disable it. Now on mobile, we're used to seeing what designers call the hamburger menu because it looks like a stacked hamburger. It's typically 3 small bars as an icon, and when you click on it, a menu appears vertically for you to choose what page you want to go to. It is often accompanied by an X to close it. Choose this if you have a simple structure, you want to appear modern, or if you want to design with mobile content in mind before desktop content. Some people are actually very against hiding the content of your nav and making people click to see it. So studies do actually show that the hamburger menu has less engagement than a visible navigation. A sidebar navigation is a more involved navigation than the vertical navigation. It actually will have content, images, or copy for a user to engage with on the sidebar. We've actually only built a couple of these, and we chose one of these templates when there are multiple properties involved, like a winery has different venues, or a concert pavilion, a restaurant, or a retail store. This is a Shopify site, and it's giving us an example of an expandable menu. This is also referred to as a mega menu. These are basically the horizontal versions of a sidebar nav, and they're useful when you have a lot of content. Personally, I think the Aveline site here shouldn't have one because only some of their top-level areas have expanded content. But remember when choosing a template that the navigation is your skeleton. So if you don't think you can flesh out all the areas of a big nav like this, choose something simpler. For me, Jordan here does a better job of incorporating an expandable menu. They have kind of a cross between an expandable menu and a pull-down menu, but it provides some extra information only on the key points that they want to stress, like the club and the wines. But it's not too distracting, in my opinion. The last navigation to consider is a double nav. I haven't seen a template that offers double navigations, but it's typically used when there's a family of websites. I know Wagner Family Wines uses one, Miller Family Wines uses one, and of course here I'm showing Duckhorn. The idea is basically you show consumers that a group of sites are all together under one corporate entity. The best tip I can give you about navigation is that it should follow your priorities. If your site objectives are to sell wine, get people to visit, and get people to join the club, then your first 3 items on your nav should be shop, visit, and join. My other piece of advice is not to begin with About Us. Look at your Google Analytics. Hardly anybody ever goes to your About Us area. Trust me. Experts say a navigation should be no more than 7 items long and ideally about 5. So not only prioritize your nav, but edit it as well. Things like vineyards and winemaking could go under About Us, and your tasting room history could go under Visit. Not everything has to be on the top nav. Your nav is a call to action, so use action words like visit, shop, join, in lieu of passive words like winery, wines, or clubs. And to that end, the navigation is not a place to win creative writing awards. Don't get clever. You might think that your About Us area could be called the pleasure and your winemaking area could be called the pain, and that's artistic, but your users are just going to be confused. You want to make it ridiculously easy for them to find out information. So put things in terms a 5-year-old would understand. I don't see this so much anymore, but it used to be a thing where people would have a section called wines, and it would have all the winemaking and vineyard information. And then they would name the e-commerce store shop or store or something where you bought the wines. A, that's kind of confusing because you're making customers guess where to go to buy. But also B, you want to erase every question or doubt that they have about a purchase right there in the store. Put all of your wine information at the point of purchase. Every video, every tasting note, a review, a winemaker quote, anything they would need to decide, put it in the cart. If you think about it, when you go to Macy's, Macy's.com, you don't go to a section called shirts that talks about all their shirts and the materials and the colors and how they make them. And then you go out of that area and go into e-commerce and you find the shirt and buy it. No, you just go shopping and everything you need to know about that shirt is right there next to the buy button. So if I leave you with one thing in this webinar, it's to care about your shopping area and fill out everything you can right at that crucial decision point. Just about every 5-year-old knows that if there's a logo on the header and you click it, you go back to the home page. You do not need a home button. Don't waste your precious real estate on the navigation for it. And although we're not going to get into it here, there are ways that we know consumers scan and read websites. One is called the Z pattern, and that's where your eyes take a Z down the page. Another common way people surf is called the F pattern, indicating that we look at the nav first and then we go down the left side. In both cases, that far right space on your nav is very important. Most web strategists agree you should put your most important items at the beginning of the nav and the least important items in the middle of the nav, with contact as the last item on the list, putting it at the far right in the top level horizontal navigation as a standard location. And finally, don't forget about your footer. This is a great place for things like return policy or donation requests, unsubscribes, terms and conditions, trade support. Your footer should be for B2B or legal content that's important enough to have its own area. Now let's move from navigation to images. So we're going to walk through some of the types of image content blocks you're going to find in a template. The first one here is the old standard, the slider. While a bit passe, the slider is still on a lot of templates. Sometimes the individual images can have calls to action and be clickable. The good thing about sliders is that you're maximizing your real estate at the top of your homepage with multiple images. The bad thing about them is the orientation. You almost always have to shoot specifically for that extreme horizontal layout. A gallery is another somewhat passe design feature, although we have lots of galleries on our WineGlass Marketing site because it's a space-efficient way to show a lot of images in a single page. Typically, when working with these in a template, you need to keep in mind the orientation. If you flip back and forth between portrait and landscape, it can look really messy. Carousels will show multiple images at once that can be rotated through. In some carousels, you can click on one and it'll highlight it for a closer look. Like a gallery, if you choose a template with a carousel, make sure you have all the same size, the same cropping, and the same orientation of your images, or it's going to look all thrown together. Video backgrounds play under other content. Typically, these work well if it's a snippet of a video that's played on a loop. We typically recommend that the video be either very closely shot, like this wine glass, or a far away shot like an aerial flyover video. Medium range videos and videos with people run the risk of clashing with content and being cropped at strange angles. One of the most common mistakes I see with people filling in templates is when a template calls for reversed out text over an image. If you choose a template such as this in this style, you better A, make sure you have dark images, or B, see if it can be adjusted for colored text over light images. If you were to put something like a dappled tree branches or a sky with clouds containing both light and dark areas, you wouldn't be able to read the text in this template. Remember that when you're looking at templates, the template designer has chosen images that look good in the layout. So if you're looking at this template and you don't have images that are similar to the ones in the layout, make another choice because the images that you have won't look good. Some templates get around this by offering a screened background area for the text. Typically, this is limited space, and it's either a dark film for reversed out type or a white film for black type. In the case of this template, on the rollover, it's activated. Here's another example on our Buddha template. When you roll over the image, the darkened screen is activated, so the text is more legible. So let's wrap up this section. A template is not your excuse to not do anything. Please don't take it out of the box and use it as is. Know your style guide. If you don't know your style, ask your label printer to tell you what font and hex colors are on your label. Not all fonts used in print are viewable on the web. Only a handful are. So you will need to choose what we call a comparable web-safe font. Your printer should be able to help you or a designer. But everybody should have an idea of their logo, their fonts, and their colors to customize their site. It is true that phones are incredible now, and it is true that places like Outshinery will take a label on a stock bottle and it looks pretty good. I am not here to judge your photo choices, but do know that shooting something curved, something made of reflective glass, and something with metallic ink labels is incredibly hard. You spend thousands, if not millions, on your wines, so please don't fall short on the final mile and don't present it beautifully. Also, learn what a high resolution image is. Keep your originals in a safe place. Another problem I see every day is third and fourth generation images that are 10 kilobytes and very, very fuzzy. You want to represent your brand and your winery and your products as well as possible, and you can only do that if you have good photography. It really does matter. In addition to your website template, you might get templates for other things, like the terms and conditions pages or the cart pages, the login pages, the receipt, shipping and abandoned cart emails. Don't forget about these add-ons. Don't get so wrapped up in the homepage that you forget what the receipt looks like that gets sent to every single customer. Make sure you look through the entire template package and customize it to your brand from the beginning to the end. And finally, ask a lot of questions if you have a designer. Push the envelope for what can be done. You'd be surprised at how different you can make some of these templates look. Let me show you two examples. This is one winery who did very little, and then one winery who pushed it on the same exact template. This is our Austin template. So this first site still has the doghouse logo on the nav instead of their own. The color is the same from the template. The font is the same. They've loaded a picture in the homepage that is a light sky with a reversed out text, so it's kind of hard to read. As we go down, all of the content is in the exact same order of the template. They haven't changed anything. They did upload pictures of their adorable kids. And then down here, they added a video at the bottom, which is nice, but they didn't fill out any information in the footer. So let's go back to the first item, the visit the studio. And they talk about their tasting experience here. This isn't a bad image to upload. It's nicely centered. But they don't have any map or address. I have no idea how to get here. So there's no way to find their tasting room. If you go to a product page, this image isn't the right orientation. It's just a fuzzy rainbow. And then they have 4 different sizes uploaded here into the store. Some have text also and some don't. When you click on a product, you get the same kind of fuzzy rainbow, and then there's no information. So I would say this is how to not use a template. A template is made to be customized and filled out. A template is not something to be, put up right out of the box. So here is the same Austin template with somebody who did customize it. They made some really smart decisions. I happen to know this first image here is a stock photo, but it went with their color theme of brown and green. They have chosen to make the top navigation transparent and then drop all these boxes and make the buttons transparent. And what this does is this tweak makes it look a little more luxurious and rich. They have a combination of stock photos that we did professionally on their bottles, and then some that they took on their iPhone of their property. But what they did is they ran all of these images through a filter so that the sepia tone is consistent on all of them. And that's a really easy thing to do to make all your images look cohesive. If you don't know how to use a filter, ask your kids. They do. And then here's the product pages, and we've customized the one-up layout. And then also everything is maximized every inch of the selling space that we can. We have customized their checkout drill down store page here to really maximize this photography we did on the bottle shots. So it's hard to believe that these two websites are actually the same exact template. All right, next section. Now that we know what we're looking at, why would we make some decisions over others? Let's discuss what to look for when choosing a template. So the first thing, and we talked about this on the nav, you're going to want to know, and you're going to want to have consensus internally, meaning your boss agrees with you. What is the main purpose of your website? Yes, you can have multiple objectives, but it's best to have a singular most important goal, and then 2 or 3 sub-goals. Once you have these, it becomes clear what you're asking visitors to do. So let's look at some examples. So Chapelton's website here has a lot on the nav, but they do start with About Us, Visit and Events. So this tells me that the site content should support that and really be about the property. I wouldn't expect to find wines up front and center because it's the fifth thing on the nav. So when you got the main picture of the winery, you got a pod about Texas wines, then you talk about the About Us section. We go into reservations. The site's pretty singular and clear on its focus and its purpose. They want to use it for acquisition, awareness, and traffic to the winery. Conversely, this site's a little schizophrenic. It starts off on the nav saying they want to sell wine, tell you about themselves, and then talk about the club. But the main picture in the headline is about news and Willamette. Okay, so not supporting wine, story, or club, but we keep going. We find 3 pods that tell us to make a reservation, find wine, or join the club. And then below that, we see the story. And then we're back to the tasting room. So this is very typical. We shove everything we think is important on the homepage in no particular order. So what happens is as a visitor, I'm confused. I have too many options. If visitation is the main focus, then that should be the first item on the nav and the first content block. If it's wine, then that should be the headline and possibly the main image. A template will give you the content areas, but it's up to you to organize them to drive visitors where you want them to go. Let's look at another one. I found this one a little confusing as well. So here we have About Us, Wine Club, Store, and Visit as the top nav. I can only assume those are what they want us to do. The first image doesn't have a headline, but it does seem to be inviting me to visit. The first pod is about visit. And then we have a pod that is about the wine club. And then we have About Us. And then we have a video. And only way down at the bottom here do they even have a button about wine. So I would say if this website is expected to sell wine, it's not working very hard to do that, and the website could work harder for them. The second thing you need to know after your objective is your requirements. What do you need people to do on your site? Are you looking for club membership, recipes, blogs, other types of interactions? I can't tell you how many times somebody has chosen a template that they thought was pretty, and then they only realized halfway through filling it out that it didn't have what they needed. So make your list of requirements before you choose a template. And remember, your template does not have to do everything, just link to things. So I like this templated site because it really got the most out of what they needed. So this location has a hotel, a restaurant, a winery, an event space, golf. They made it all work. The homepage is really singularly focused on visitation. They start off with a blurb about the location. Then they have copy about what sets them apart. They have a carousel with copy and images. Then they feature their restaurant here. Then they feature the accommodation. As they go down, they talk about the event space. And now everything has been on the location so far. But then they go a step further and they talk about testimonials of people who have been there. So they're really selling me. And then they go into a section about awards. And then finally, they start talking about some of their guest experiences. Everything on this homepage is working very hard to get you to that location. It has a very singular focus. But what they also do that's smart is they chose a template that has a lot of image galleries for them to highlight. So here are their rooms, right? And when guests want to book a room, they can look at the pictures, and all of this is on their website. They have pictures of the rooms, which they just are simple galleries. When you want to check availability, you click the button and you go off-site to where you book. The same happens here for dining. It shows you the menu. It has some galleries. It has a loaded up PDF. Yes, I want an Eggs Benedict and I want that French toast. To make a reservation, it takes you off-site to RSVP. Again, good use of a template. And now let's look at golf. So it shows you, again, image galleries. It shows you what is available. And then when you want to book a tea time, it takes you to easylinksgolf.com so that you can book it. They don't try to force the template to do everything. They just ended up with a very cohesive experience. So here are my content tips for templates. One is understand how much information you need to cover. If you have 3 wines and no tasting room, there might be some really great one-page content templates where you can load up some strong photography and good copy and just keep it surgical and neat for the visitor. More is not always better, so don't choose a template with bells and whistles if you don't need them. As I said, make a requirements list. Know what functionality you need. Do you need reservations? Do you need testimonials? Do you want video? Make sure that the template that you have will accommodate everything that you want to accomplish with your site. And finally, consider what you have to say first. Copy should dictate design, not the other way around. If you have a long 5-generation history to talk about, don't choose a template with short little paragraphs. At WGM, we always write the copy first, and then we design to what we have to communicate. The third and final consideration is imagery. The biggest disappointment we see is clients falling in love with the template and then not having the images to match it. Remember, the template only looks that good because the designer chose those images to go in it. So let's go through some of the basic decisions here so you can shine as well. Watch your cropping. People are very hard to show in horizontal images like this. Most templates will be resized based on the screen. So don't upload your photos and look at it on your screen in one size and call it good. You should elongate your screen and make it square and see what the image does. For instance, on my screen, this poor guy got decapitated. Another thing to note here on this site is it's showing product photos in different sizes. Make sure you follow the guidelines religiously for product photos, including the white space around them, or your store is going to look messy. There are lots of studies out there showing that people will not put a credit card in a store that doesn't look neat and organized and legit. So this isn't just aesthetics we're talking about here. It's going to hurt your sales. In addition to cropping, watch text overlays. I'm sure this winemaker doesn't really appreciate having text over her face. This template has 2 issues. One is they uploaded a photo for the background image of the product, so the product is covered up by the content. And if you remember in our video example of the wine being poured, try to use either very close-up shots or very far away shots for backgrounds like this. The second issue is they've uploaded up 2 stock photos here, and they have very different tones. The top one, which is the Cooper, is bright and crisp and realistic, and then the second one has a filter on it. Together, these 2 aren't cohesive. So in this case, this site could actually be made to look so much more professional with 20 minutes of Photoshop and some different photo choices. This site starts off pretty well. They have a really simple homepage. They have all these kickers for each of the content. The images that they've chosen are all very appropriate to have text over them, and for the most part, the text is very legible. But when you click into it, it kind of falls apart a little bit. On the Visit Us page, it has a video that's a square video, but it's an orientation that's horizontal. So the bottom half of the video gets cut off. As you page down, the template has space for similar size images, and they've done a really great job of making sure all these images are the same width, so they look very nice. But going back to the video header, you can see here that when I squeeze my screen around to a phone size, it reformats itself and it looks a lot better. So also the video goes away. I get a nice header image. You should know that a video almost is always disabled for phone. So don't be surprised when your videos won't automatically play on a mobile view. Going back to the desktop orientation, let's go over to events and weddings. Here, it's not a video. They have still images uploaded with sort of a Ken Burns transition effect on them. Again, decapitated people. The content does look good as you kind of roll down, and they keep doing these similar widths, so the sizes look really nice. Here's an example of somebody who made a smart decision on their template. They found an image that not only conveys what they wanted about the region on the homepage, but it has a dark spot in the middle of the frame where the reversed out logo was. So a really good choice. I thought these guys were clever. This is the same Austin template that we've been looking at all morning, but here they have this super cropped label. And it works well no matter what the orientation is. And I squished this all over the place, and no matter what size my screen was, it looked good. And we're going to end on this sweet little winery. They have some really engaging photography. All of their images are shot and centered in such a way that the text is always around the main focal point. And it's all legible and it looks really good. When you resize it, it resizes nicely, and the text goes into a space that still works well. When you page down on the template, they have different spaces for a horizontal and a vertical image, and they've chosen two that are very nicely oriented to that. And even their footer looks really sharp here. The thing I loved too is when you made it mobile, the little bird feet that were in the background become a little chain in between the the images. I just think this is a really clever way of taking a template, and they made it very personal and a really good user experience. So my image tips here are to know your orientation. Don't try to put a portrait image in a horizontal layout. It will not work. And this is kind of obvious, so we're not talking about design level decisions here. Once you have your images uploaded to your template, do what I did and move around your browser. Do all the images work in every size? Chances are you'll have some adjustment. And then look at it on an iPad and an iPhone. And remember, video is not going to play automatically on a phone. Be aware of overlays and plan accordingly. Check to see if there are overlays and if they're adjustable to be either light or dark. And then my pro tip, an easy way to get all of your images from all sorts of different sources to look cohesive, give them all a similar filter. And this way, images from different cameras at different times will look good together. So that is about enough of me talking. I'm going to turn it over to Mike now, and we're going to go through some expert tips on hosting your website. Mike, go ahead and take it away. Talk to us about WP Engine.
Perfect. Thank you, Susan. All that was great information, great tips and tricks there throughout all that. So appreciate you going over that. As Susan said, I'm Michael McBride. I live in Austin, Texas with my wife, Crystal, and we love drinking wine. So it's been an absolute pleasure working with the team at WineGlass Marketing for the past few years. I started working with the WineGlass Marketing team as an agency partner at Big Commerce, and now again as an agency partner of WP Engine. So it's been great to be able to continue growing the partnership from one company to another like this. And so, yeah, WP Engine is the #1 WordPress technology and hosting platform in the world. And that's really because we exclusively work with WordPress websites only. And we focus on 3 main things: speed, security, and stability.
So let's talk about speed a little bit. Like I mentioned that the stat I read was something like 1.6 seconds is the average load time. Why is that so important?
Yeah, that's so important because really, whether you choose WP Engine or someone else, speed is going to be one of the most important components when it comes to attracting customers to your website and getting them to stay and purchase your products. So as you can see, when merchants bring their websites to WP Engine from another host provider, they typically see around a 40% increase in site speed right off the bat. just because of all of our plans are fully optimized for WordPress. So that average page load speed of around 1.6 seconds is super important, because once you get over 2 seconds and into 3 seconds, the average time that a person will stay on your website reduces incredibly. So getting them to under that, getting your page speed from 1 to 2 seconds is crucial in getting clients to stay and actually purchase your products.
Yeah,
So
and it's kind of interesting. Sorry, I was going to say it's kind of interesting too that these templates are getting more and more complex and more plugins and more functionality. And so all of that is adding weight to your site. So that's got to be something that you guys are really focused on, is continuing that expectation for fast loading, no matter how many pictures and how many slideshows and everything are in there.
Yep, exactly. Being able to optimize those images and just create efficient workflows within your site is going to be key to getting it to be as fast as possible. And that's what we have a lot of those components built into our platform right out of the box. So that's why you're able to get that boost in speed when you come over to WP Engine from another hosting provider. And really, site speed is pretty self-explanatory, but in a nutshell, faster page speed will increase your Google rankings and in turn will drive more traffic to your site, which ultimately should lead to more sales. So that's why we really focus on site speed here at WP Engine.
Oh, good stuff.
Yep. And the second one is really all focused on security. So with WordPress websites making up almost 40% of the internet, that also means that they're one of the most hacked platforms on the internet. So you want to be sure to work with a trusted agency and hosting provider that can help you keep your website as secure as possible. So WP Engine is completely secure and comes with a free SSL and managed plugin updates and platform level protection, all included. So that's kind of table stakes from all of our WP Engine plans. And I've seen too often in the industry where a random developer will come and try to scam you into giving up control of your website, making you pay extra for security, when you can work with a credible agency like WineGlass and get on a secure hosting platform like WP Engine, and the majority of that stuff is taken care of for you.
Yeah, I see that too. I'm just talking to a winery in Oregon, and they're being charged $99 a month for quote unquote security. And I was like, that should be part of your host. I mean, like your host should be promising you that. So
Yep.
that's very cool. And just a note on SSL too, we were talking about it before we got on. That is also provided, that's a secure socket layer, I think, but it means basically it's the encryption for credit cards. So if you're going to do e-commerce, you have to have an SSL. And your Commerce 7, Wine Direct, all of those guys will have it.
Yep.
And WP Engine will offer it to you if you use something like a WooCommerce or another one that's not one of these standard platforms.
Yep, exactly. Obviously, the credit card information and those type of details are what the hackers really want. That's the crucial information that's being stored. So being able to have an SSL and having all that information locked down and as secure as possible is kind of the name of the game when it comes to security and preventing things like that to get out into the ether. So
I can also just vouch for WP Engine. We had a client that that was hacked by just a bot, and you guys were great. That's the other thing you don't call it out here, but I want to call it out, is your customer service. When you do have an issue, you guys are amazing, and you're right there, and you work with your partners every step of the way. So that's also nice to know that should the worst thing happen, you have somebody there that you can literally call, and you're not like calling some other country and sitting on hold.
Yep, exactly. That's a great call, Susan. All of our tech support is here with me in Austin, Texas. So you aren't calling another country. You'll have a direct person that you can either chat to or call into, and they're award-winning tech support team. I think the time to resolution is under 5 minutes at this point. So getting in with them is always going to be the best first step whenever you do run into any type of issues like this. So yeah, they're always available and great to work with.
Yep, I can vouch for that.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And then rolling into that, it kind of goes hand in hand, but stability and automated website maintenance is another key component of our platform. Being able to take work off of our clients' plates by automating things like core WordPress and plugin updates helps ensure that sites stay up and stay as secure as possible. So Basically, an unupdated plugin is one of the main ways hackers can get into a WordPress site and access sensitive data in that site. So keeping plugins up to date is crucial, and it goes a long way with keeping your site stable and secure. And like I mentioned, with that, we have automated processes in place to make sure that all your WordPress core updates are taken care of, and that all your plugins are staying up to date and on the latest version. So that's just another top of a funnel way to keep websites on WP Engine as secure as possible. And then
So if I
obviously, great. Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
I was going to ask a question. So like if I set up my site on you guys and I pick my theme and I pick a plugin to do a slideshow and I want another plugin for a recipe engine or something like that, they go out of date and then somebody has to monitor them and update them or people can get in. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. As you know, technology is constantly changing and evolving. So are all those updates and plugins that you're using for your website. So keeping those up to the latest version and making sure that they stay up to date, that's going to be crucial, especially on a WordPress platform. So, yep, with our platform, we have automated processes in the back end that can help basically keep all of that stuff up to date and in the latest versions for you. So you don't have to go into each one of those plugins and manually update them and make sure that everything is up to speed with each one of those individually. Like I said, we have an automated process that can go back in called Smart Plugin Manager, and it basically takes care of all those updates for you. It lets you know if one is outdated that has an issue or anything like that, and can kind of pinpoint any problems or anything that do go along with updating those plugins. So
I think that's another thing, just in listening to you talk about taking an active role and understanding how your site is set up. I'm always surprised at people who don't know where their DNS is. They don't know who owns their domain or how to log in, where their website's hosted. And also just telling you, if you ever have an agency or a contractor that says they have to do all that, don't let them do it, because you want to keep control. You want control of your domain. You want control of your hosting. You want control of your online presence. Don't let anybody tell you that, you have to go with them and they have to host it. Because that's not true.
Yep, 100%. In the end, combining speed, security, and stability is what makes WP Engine one of the top WordPress technology platforms in the world. And combining that with the skills that the WineGlass marketing team has is kind of the perfect blend for websites in the wine industry. So I think it's a match made in heaven.
Well, thank you. And and stop following us from different. I mean, it's creepy. So I think it's great too that we can. We did get to know you guys when you particularly when you were on the BigCommerce side. So it's been wonderful to work with you, and I know you've built a really great relationship with my tech team. So thank you for being here today. Yeah,
likewise. I really appreciate you having me.
So this brings us to the surprise announcement. You guys here will be the first to hear this, but I will be all over social media talking about this pretty soon. WineGlass Marketing has been working for about 8 months now on a very exciting new program for the wine industry for all you guys. Today, we're going to launch what we're call the Universal Template. These are websites on WordPress. They are made especially for the wine industry. And we have artfully designed a variety of themes with features like wine clubs and recipes and tasting room visitation that take generic templates and they really customize them for the wine industry. So these templates are on WordPress. We have used one of the easiest ways to use WordPress in a program called Elementor. That's drag and drop. But why are they called universal templates, you may ask? Here is the cool thing about them. Once you set it up on WordPress, they are going to connect with Commerce 7. They will connect with WineDirect Classic. They will connect with WineDirect, the all-new WineDirect. And they will connect with Complete D2C by VinoShipper. Because WineGlass Marketing plays nice in the sandbox, we support your decision on whatever platform you have chosen for your winery. So now you can decouple the decision of what platform has the best features for you, and then which one allows you to set up and maintain a smart looking website. Now, this must be expensive, you're saying to yourself, but no, they actually start around $349. The average price of a template on WordPress is 99 to 700 or so. So it's kind of right in the middle there. If you want to take your chances and be on another hosting platform, that is okay. You can keep your site where it is. Although we can set you up on WP Engine, and we do also offer a maintenance package for all of those things we just talked about. And these are beautiful templates, ladies and gentlemen. The first two are fan favorites that we initially made for the WineDirect platform, and they are now new and improved on WordPress, available for Commerce 7 and VinnerShipper as well. Here is Buddha. Buddha once said that 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and a really clean modern website. We couldn't agree more. We give you the Buddha templates to clear your mind and feed your soul. With stackable and interchanging blocks on the homepage that can be for products, images, or text, Buddha says a lot without having to yell. Your visitors will appreciate the abundant use of white space to focus your messages and make your site easy to read. It's fresh and contemporary, and Buddha delivers. Our next one that we remade for WordPress is Austin. This is Austin Powers, the international template of mystery. With full bleed images that melt down a sexy scrolling homepage. If you have gorgeous winery photography, then this is your chance to shine. Your site visitors won't get lost in the imagery, as the persistent nav and the active rollover buttons make sure that they stay on point. Events and recipe features are included, and this template is fully font and color customizable. A brand new one. You guys are the first ones to see it. This is Vanessa. Vanessa, why are you so intriguing? Is it the angled lines that keep us interested as we move down the page, or the screened back images that tease us with a colored veil? Maybe it's the rotating main image or the rollover effect on the secondary page images. We don't know, but altogether, these make for one fancy site. If you've got a lot of content and you want a site with all the glitz and glamour to offer, Vanessa's there with bells on. And our fourth new site we're launching with is Windsor. This is truly the big dog of websites. Recommended for those who have darker photography, because this site takes full advantage of dramatic, moody, reversed out text over images. This template also comes with the ability to load up a watermarked illustration for your background, and you can turn that off as well. If you want to give some nice photos one heck of a frame, choose Windsor. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's my announcements. Check out our website. They are live online now, and about every 2 weeks between now and the end of the year, WineGlass Marketing will launch an exciting new template. So if you are looking at refreshing your website anytime in the next 6 months and you are on any of those platforms, save some time and money and check them out. So that's what we have for you today. Here is our contact information again, should you have any questions. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. And now I want you all to go out there, do great things, and for God's sakes, people, wear sunscreen and eat a vegetable.